All right, let's talk about something that pretty much every car person thinks they know inside and out: bleeding your brakes. But what if I told you that one of the most common pieces of advice for this job, a rule you've probably heard 100 times, is just wrong for most modern cars? Let's get into it.
We've all heard it. It's like gospel in the garage, right? You start at the passenger rear wheel because it's the one that's physically the farthest away from the master cylinder. Then you work your way closer. It sounds simple, it's logical, and you know what? For a very, very long time, it was exactly the right way to do it.
But here's the thing: on a car built in, say, the last 20 years or so, following that old advice might not just be the wrong order, it could actually make things worse. So the big question is, what changed? To really get this, we've got to take a quick trip. We're going from the simple, straightforward world of old school car hydraulics to the complex, computerized systems that are stopping our cars today. Okay, so picture a classic car. The brake lines were laid out like a really simple map. They just ran from the master cylinder to each wheel in the most direct way possible. And in that setup, yeah, the longest path was always to that back passenger side wheel. So that's where you started to push all the air out. Made perfect sense. But hang on, what if, to make things fit better, the carmaker decided to route all the brake lines down just one side of the car? Well, all of a sudden, the driver's side rear wheel, the one that looks closer to you, is now at the very end of the longest brake line. It's a complete flip-flop that totally breaks that old farthest wheel rule. And then, the real game changer showed up: the ABS unit. Think of this thing as the new central command for your brakes. It doesn't care at all about physical distance from the master cylinder. See, to save money, a car company might put the ABS unit on the left side of the engine bay for all their cars, whether they're left-hand drive or right-hand drive. Now, all the lines run to this one block first, and it completely scrambles what we thought we knew about line length. But look, beyond just getting the order wrong, there's a much bigger, much more urgent reason why this is so critical. There is a silent enemy hiding inside your brake lines right now, and it's slowly poisoning your car's most important safety system from the inside. And that enemy is water. You see, brake fluid has this funky property. It's hygroscopic. That's a fancy word, but all it means is that it acts like a super thirsty sponge. It literally pulls moisture right out of the air through tiny microscopic pores in the rubber brake hoses and seals. And that, well, that's a recipe for disaster. Check this out. Brand new, fresh out of the bottle brake fluid won't boil until it gets over 400 degrees Fahrenheit. But after it's been in your car for a couple of years, soaking up that moisture, its boiling point plummets down below 300 degrees. So imagine you're coming down a long, steep hill, riding the brakes, they get hot, really hot, and suddenly your brake pedal just sinks to the floor. That's what happens when the water in your fluid turns to steam. And here's the physics behind why that's so terrifying. You can't compress a liquid. That's the whole principle of hydraulics. But a gas, like steam, oh yeah, you can definitely compress that. So when that steam bubble forms in your line, it's like you replace one of your dominoes with a marshmallow. You stomp on the brake pedal, and all that force just squishes the marshmallow. The pedal hits the floor, and the car just keeps on going. And even if you avoid that total catastrophic failure, that water is still a slow-motion killer. It's what makes your brake pedal feel spongy and unreliable. But even worse, it's literally rusting your brake system from the inside out, corroding your lines, your calipers, and that incredibly expensive ABS unit. So, that was the scary part. What's the answer? How do we fight back? The solution isn't just about bleeding the air out anymore. It's about a complete fluid flush, getting every single drop of that old, contaminated fluid out and replacing it with fresh, clean stuff. Okay, let's roll up our sleeves. A proper, safe brake flush really just comes down to 5 main steps. If you follow these, you'll be in great shape. First things first, we start at the source. Clean everything, and I mean everything, around that master cylinder cap before you even think about opening it. You do not want a single speck of dirt falling in. Then get yourself a turkey baster and suck out as much of that old, dark, nasty fluid as you can. Then top it off with the correct new fluid for your car. This way, you're pushing clean fluid through the whole system from the start. Now, for the actual bleeding part, you've got 2 really good DIY options. You can use a simple one-person bleeder bottle with a check valve, and that totally works. But honestly, I am a huge fan of the pressure bleeder. It's a little more money up front, but man, it is so much faster, and it makes it almost impossible to accidentally introduce more air into the system. That peace of mind is totally worth it. And here we are, the single most important rule of this entire job.
I want you to take that old farthest wheel first rule and throw it in the trash. The only way to know the correct sequence for your car is to check the manufacturer's official service information. It will tell you the exact order. It might be rear to front, it might be a crisscross pattern, who knows? You just cannot guess. So, what have we really learned here? This is about more than just brakes. It's really about adopting a new way of thinking about working on our cars, where we start to question those old rules of thumb and instead we rely on modern, accurate information.
So let's just boil it all down. The big do? Flush your brake fluid every 2 to 3 years. Think of it as non-negotiable safety maintenance. The big don't? Don't ever trust that farthest wheel first rule again. It's officially obsolete. And finally, the most important rule of all. Always, always look up the specific bleeding order for your car. That is the only rule that really matters now. You know, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If a rule that's so fundamental is now completely wrong, what other old school maintenance advice are we still following that's just out of date? I'd love to know what you think. What other automotive myths should we bust next? Let me know. Thanks for tuning in.